Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, I welcome you in Pakistan International School Types virtual learning system for for the class biology and for grade second year. Dear students, we are on chapter number 18, chemical coordination, and today we will see pancreas, adrenal gland, and gonads. In the previous lectures, we have studied about lots of glands. In that, we have seen thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, and pituitary gland, and hypothalamus. Today, we will see some more glands. So let's get started. Yes, dear students, today's gland which we study here, that is pancreas, and we know that pancreas is having great importance in our body as the digestion concern. So this is not only helping digestion, but it also performs its endocrine function. So we can say that pancreas is exocrine and endocrine tissue. Exocrine, like it releases its enzymes in the duct and in the form of digestive juices, which reaches to the duodenum in the small intestine and helps in digestion. And endocrine function, we know that there are glands. Actually, pancreas is itself is a large gland. So it glands cells are present over there in the form of patches, and these are called islets of Langerhans. And islets of Langerhans, that is the name given after the name of the scientist who discovered them, secretes two hormones, insulin and glucagon. They are very, very important hormones which controls blood glucose level. So if we see its structure, you can see here in this diagram. We see that this is pancreas, which is lying below the stomach, and it is having relation with the small intestine. So that is its exocrine function, that acinars cells are present. So acinars are functional unit of exocrine pancreas, and it releases pancreatic juice in via through this duct into the small intestine. This is the duct, and acinar cells are there. There are other cells also present, islets of Langerhans, in which the blood capillaries and veins and arteries are present. And this is the enlarged view of islets of Langerhans, one cell of that. It is having lots of cells, beta cells and alpha cells. Beta cells are more in number, and alpha cells are larger and less in numbers. So actually, beta cells and alpha cells are responsible for the production of insulin and glucagon. So if we see that beta cells secrete glucagon, although they are larger in numbers, and alpha cells, which are lesser in number, insulin is secreted by beta cells and glucagon is secreted by alpha cells, which are less in number. So these cells are having a great role while controlling the blood sugar level. If we talk about insulin, so insulin released from these islets of Langerhans or from beta cells, which are more in number. So they are directly controls the blood sugar level and actually reduce blood glucose level to the normal by increasing the rate of glucose uptake. How? By the cells, especially from by skeletal muscles and by fat cells. It promotes also glycogenesis. Glyco means glycogen, genesis means to form. So formation of or we can say yes, that genesis of or formation of glycogen from glucose. If glucose is in more quantity, so this helps in the conversion of glucose into glycogen and increase the use of glucose by respiration and promotes excess glucose to fats and inhibit gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis means gluco from glucose, neo means new, and genesis means formation. So synthesis of glucose from glycogen is called gluconeogenesis. So it inhibits that process. So under secretion of this, we know that if insulin is not produced properly or pancreas is having some infection or some problem, like insulin is not preparing properly from this pancreas, so the person can get diabetes mellitus. Before we have discussed about diabetes insipidus, that is frequent urination. So that is another problem, that is diabetes mellitus is related from the production of insulin. It means when there is no production of insulin or less production, so there is more glucose level in the blood, that is having great effect on the body. So in the blood and in the urine, when there is high glucose level, so glucose will be less uptaken by the cells and less uptaken by our muscles and other body parts. And then what happened? It upsets the nervous system, muscular functions, and lots of problems the diabetes patient can have. The other hormone which is released from these cells, that is glucagon, that is released from beta cells. From alpha cells, which are less in numbers, these are alpha cells. Glucagon is released from those cells when blood glucose level is very low. So when blood glucose level is very low, and in sympathetic nervous system also, because in sympathetic nervous system that gluconeogenesis, like forming of glucose from glycogen, it increased to give high level of energy to the cells to run off from the situations of in flight and fight response. So high blood glucose level, insulin and if there is like a glucose is increasing and the glucagon is increasing the level of glucose up to normal level, then insulin will be then increased, and somatostatin together they suppress its secretion. So then normal blood glucose level in the body. Somatostatin is another hormone which is released from the pancreas. And now we know that glucagon and insulin work antagonistically and control the blood glucose level. You can see here endocrine cells of pancreas. So here are beta cells, here are alpha cells. Which release alpha cells glucagon stimulates glycogenolysis in the liver, means breakdown of glycogen, or that is from gluconeogenesis, like that is from other like metabolic activities or metabolism. Glucose is formed like from proteins, from lipids, that is called gluconeogenesis. So the beta cells, insulin stimulates glycogenesis in the liver, as the delta cells, that is somatostatin, that regulates alpha and beta cells. Okay, next we'll see adrenal gland, one more very, very important gland. So you just imagine this is a kidney and it is having this dome-shaped structure over it. This is actually the adrenal gland. So adrenal gland is having two parts. The outer one is adrenal cortex and inner one adrenal medulla. So adrenal medulla is releasing emergency hormones when there is emergency situation, like epinephrine, that is also called adrenaline, and norepinephrine, that is called noradrenaline. So both released during the state of emergency, and we know that influence the sympathetic nervous system and like in the as neurotransmitters and in the blood as well. So both are involved in body's immediate responses to the stress. Both hormones exert the same effect but in different way. So separately, both effects, when they collectively performs, they just increase the synergistic effect of that, like increased effect of the individual effect. So epinephrine is more potent and a stimulator of metabolic activities. Like what it does, it increases the bronchioles dilation, increased blood flow, increased respiration, blood flow to the skeletal muscles to run off from the situation, and increased heartbeat as well. And when there is then norepinephrine has a greater influence on peripheral nervous system or peripheral vasoconstriction, like which is on the skin around the body. So when there is vasoconstriction, so we feel our body cold, our body having skin is having yellow color. So the net effect is rise in blood pressure. All of this, when there is an increase of blood pressure, so increase the ability of functioning of all the cells, of all the body organs. So if we talk about over secretion of these hormones, so they may cause hypertension and aggressive behavior during all the routine life. But if under secretion is there, so there is a failure to come out of emergency situation. If the person is not feeling there, that is the emergency situation, definitely they are having problem in adrenal medulla. So let's talk about adrenal cortex, the upper part of that hormone. It releases glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. These are the hormones. Glucocorticoids said to be cortisone, and mineralocorticoid is known as aldosterone. So cortisone or cortisol, which helps to regulate blood glucose level along with the insulin, that is glucocorticoids. So if there is mineralocorticoids, it means it regulates the minerals content or level of minerals in the blood. So both are produced under the influence of adrenocorticotropic hormones, which are released from the pituitary gland. So under secretion of them, the person can suffer from Addison's disease. So in Addison's disease, there is loss of salts, like salts are not regulated. So if salts are not regulated, so definitely nervous problem and muscular actions can be disturbed, and other metabolic activities also. So they can stress situation can be there, such as cold, they cannot be tolerable, and the person can die. So we can see here Addison's disease and its symptoms, like bronze pigmentation, more pigmentation on the body, changes in distribution of body hair, hypoglycemia, like low glucose level, and postural hypotension. Hypotension means less tension of like the all the body postures. And GI, like gastrointestinal disturbances is there, weakness and weight loss can be there, profound fatigue, dehydration, vascular collapse, like BP can get so much lower, renal shutdown, serum, sodium salts as well as this, can be decreased, and potassium salts can be increased. So that is not a good sign for the body. Definitely the person gets older and very soon, and they can be die. So then we are having over secretion if adrenal cortical hormones. So the person can suffer from Cushing disease, excessive protein breakdown, like from somewhere when protein breakdown, it means the organs or the muscles are going to be breaking down, like muscles and bone, a weakness is there. Another hormone, except cortisol and aldosterone, androgen also released from cortex, adrenal cortex, and in very small amount both in male and female. Just remember that androgen in high amount it is released from the testes, which is male gonads, but in female it is also released from that is called adrenal cortex. Okay, so if we can see here the Cushing disease, some symptoms of Cushing syndrome, or Cushing syndrome means all that get together, all the problems. So central nervous system irritability and emotional disturbance. Then you can have red and round face, and excess cortisol is secrete from this adrenal cortex. And then cardiac hypertrophy, like more functioning of cardiac hyperplasia and tumor can be on the adrenal cortex. Purple striates, like when the muscles are degrading. So these lines can be indicated on where there are more muscles. Obesity, fat deposition in the neck and abdomen, osteoporosis, and skin ulcers, because from here the muscles are wasting, and lots of other problems, like in males, erectile dysfunction, that is about the male reproductive organs, and amenorrhea, hirsutism, like that is common in male, but that can then it can be in the female, like increase of a hair growth can be around the face. Okay, so let's talk about gonads. So first of all, just say look on the gonads. So there are two types of gonads, male that is present in male reproductive and female reproductive systems. So in male, that is testes, that is male gonad, and in female there are two ovaries and two testes. So let's talk about them. So gonads, actually they are glands, endocrine glands, and they also secrete hormones and produce gametes, male and female gametes. So let's talk about ovaries. Female, like gonads, it releases female sex hormones like estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone, they work also antagonistically or opposite to one another, because estrogen is negative feedback for progesterone. So Graafian follicle, they are released from Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle is the cells, follicle cells or follicle cells which are present in the ovaries, and these are actually ripened cells in which the egg cells is present, and from there estrogen is released, but they are under the stimulation of follicle stimulating hormone, which are released from pituitary gland. So we know that pituitary gland releases two FSH and LH hormones. FSH is released from Graafian follicle, and it releases the stimulation of follicle cells. So at follicle cells, and estrogen is having the negative feedback to FSH. When estrogen releases in more quantity, because there are more follicles, so estrogen releases in more quantity, so it just gives a negative feedback to it, and then it stops secreting FSH. Estrogen that in the time of puberty, that is responsible for secondary characteristics in females, as well as healing and repairing of a uterine wall after menstruation, and its deficiency in young females, it can mature, there is failure of maturation sexually, and if it is in the adult stage deficiency, so there can be sterility, because estrogen is very helpful for the like follicle stimulate for follicles which is having egg cells in that. So if over secretion, so it leads to the development of fibroids, like abnormal growth in the uterus, and polycystic ovaries can be there. So in we will see the detail in the next chapter, where we'll see gonads in detail. Progesterone, this is another hormone which is released when the Graafian follicle is, so corpus luteum is formed when Graafian follicle ruptures and egg is released from that. So that then corpus luteum becomes yellowish in color, so that is responsible for luteinizing hormone, and is that is like during normal menstrual cycle, but it is produced and released from placenta during pregnancy also. Okay, in normal cycle, that is released from corpus luteum, that is a progesterone, but it is released during pregnancy, and it inhibits further FSH, like that is also negative feedback to FSH, inhibits further follicle stimulating hormone, so not to stimulate more follicles to form, and more follicles to ripe as well, because every follicle is having one cell, so just one cell, when it just get ripened, and it ruptures and egg is removed, so corpus luteum is formed, then progesterone is released from that, and then it blocks the FSH. So further, it causes a thickening and vascularization during pregnancy into the uterus wall to hold that pregnancy. That also suppresses ovulation. Rupturing of follicle and releasing of egg is called ovulation. If under secretion of this, that is progesterone, during menstrual cycle, so it decreases the chance of pregnancy and may cause early menstruation again, and under secretion that leads to miscarriage. Let's talk about male reproductive gonads and the hormones. There are testes and sperms are produced, and sex hormones, they are, that is called testosterone, that is very, very important hormone in males, and that is secreted from interstitial cells among seminiferous tubules under influence of ICH. ICH means interstitial cells stimulating hormone, that is released in the testes, where there are seminiferous tubules, where the semen is present or the sperms are present. So around that some cells are present, so these cells are called interstitial cells, and they produce testosterone to mature the to make the sperms mature. So during puberty, that initiates and maturation on male reproductive organs and secondary sex characters as well, and sex drive. So testosterone is necessary for normal sperm production as well, and maintains all the reproductive organs into in an adult male. Under secretion, definitely that will lead to feminine characters So like, because that is a proper male hormone, so under secretion of this, that develop feminine or female characters, and the male and female sterility can be after this under secretion, because the person cannot be fertile and cannot produce any like next offspring. So dear students, I hope you understood this lecture that is about some of the glands. So inshallah, we will continue this topic. We will see you in the next lecture. Wish you all the best. Allah Hafiz.